I am impressed. Now, I mean, I know Wayne Newton as a performer has been around for as long as many of us can remember, but I don't think they know how far back it goes. Starting at age 4, 6?
I started at the age of 4 in Virginia. We're originally from Virginia. And I had a local radio show when I was 5, WDBJ in Roanoke, Virginia, and sang and played guitar. And then I became ill. And my parents took me to a doctor and they put me through all the tests. And he called us into his office and said to my parents, he said, if you want this kid to live, you better get him out of this climate because he has bronchial asthma. So we moved to Phoenix, Arizona. And when I was 8 years old, I had a local television show in Phoenix from the time I was 8 until I was 15. And at 15, I came to Las Vegas and auditioned and went to work.
Would you, I know, and I was talking to a mutual friend of ours backstage last night, and he said, when you watch Wayne do a show, he'll play 13 instruments, and it's not a kind of a get up and pound on the drums a couple of times, which most people could probably pull off. It's pick up the fiddle and really go at it hard. That's kind of savant territory. Also starting at age 4, 5, and 6 is sort of musical savant territory. Do you think you were sort of a musical prodigy savant?
I probably could have been. I've never thought about it that way. But when I think about the fact that nobody in my family on either my mother's side or my father's side ever were musicians or singers, never in show business. And so I don't know where mine came from, but I know that the two loves of my life were music and horses. And
Yeah.
I can tell you which afforded the other.
I like comedy and cars, and I could probably tell you in what order they pay
Yes.
for each other as well. And I know you're a car guy, and you have some crazy car stories and some crazy cars, and I've got some horse stories, and we got some Rat Pack stories and early Vegas stories. So I want to get into all of it. But your parents just picking up and leaving the East Coast and coming to Phoenix, or I don't know where.
Phoenix, right.
Phoenix in 19 what?
Let's see. It would have been 1950.
Did you take a train? Did you fly?
We drove
You drove.
with a trailer behind the car.
So first off, pretty dedicated of your parents to just pack it all in and leave their community for Phoenix in the early 50s, which is probably wasn't a lot going on in Phoenix back
No,
then.
as a matter of fact, we got to Phoenix. My dad had a sister that lived there, and my mother had a brother that lived there.
Okay.
And so then my dad could not find work. And so I cleared right up when we got to Phoenix with no problems. And,
The asthma.
The asthma. And my dad couldn't find work, so he said, let's go back to Ohio, because he had a sister that lived in Newark, Ohio. We went back to Ohio for a year, and the minute summer set in, or winter set in, I became ill again. And my parents had just bought a home. We had not moved into it yet, and they let all that go, and we went back to Phoenix.
What profession was your father in?
He was an auto mechanic,
And your mom, homemaker?
housewife.
Back
Yes.
back then, statistically,
Right.
probably a smart guess to say took care of everything. So back to Phoenix, you have the sort of gift of music that's in you. And what year do you get to Vegas, and then why do you get to Vegas?
What happened is an agent came through Phoenix from Los Angeles, saw our television show, and hunted up my parents' phone number. And got my mother on the phone, and he said, I want that kid to trot in Las Vegas. So my brother and I jumped aboard a Greyhound, came up to Las Vegas, auditioned downtown at the Fremont Hotel. The gentleman listened to 2 songs and got up like he was leaving the room. And I was 15 at the time. And he turned back and looked at me and he said, if we can get you a work permit, he said, I'll hire you guys for 2 weeks. So we didn't know what a work permit meant.
Is this early 60s?
This would have been 1959.
Oh, okay.
So we went back to Phoenix on the next bus. And 2 days later, we get the call that they had gotten me the work permit. And the work permit said Wayne Newton can work at the Fremont Hotel. He's just not allowed to be in the place he's working, which I didn't understand at all till they gave us our schedule. And the schedule was 6 shows a day, 6 days a week, 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off, 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off.
Wow.
And on the 20 minutes, I had to go stand on the corner of Fremont Street.
And is that playing a lounge at the Fremont?
It was a lounge, and that was what differentiated the main rooms and those kind of things from a lounge, because they did not serve food, only booze. And so at 15 years old, you weren't allowed in.
Were you doing covers, I'm assuming,
Oh,
back
sure,
then?
sure.
And what was Vegas like in 1959?
In 1959, when we came up here and went to work, because the 2 weeks turned into a 5-year contract.
Wow.
And there were, I think the town had around 75,000 people that lived here.
Where's it now? Do you know?
About 2.5 million.
Wow.
And 7 hotels on the Strip.
Wow. And nothing off the Strip, I'm guessing.
Except a few places downtown.
Right.
The Golden Nugget, Fremont.
Binions. Was Binions
Horseshoe.
there?
Right.
Yeah. You know, one of the first times I came to Vegas, Jimmy Kimmel said, who's from Vegas, said, we got to go to Binions. And I said, why? And he said, because they have $1.99 steak, potato, and all the trimmings there. He's such a foodie now, but it was so funny him going, for $2, we get a steak dinner, potato, and all the trimmings, but we got to go down to Binions. I could only imagine dragging him down to Binions today for $2 worth of steak. But
if you could find the steak.
It's probably almost $7 by now. So, and where did you stay? Did you stay at the Fremont?
No, we excuse me. We stayed at a motel called El Rancho that was kind of right at the end of the Strip going downtown. And we stayed there for about 9 or 10 months. And I'm an animal lover also, so I went to a pet shop and bought a pet skunk. And I didn't realize it. The housekeepers came in at night to check the rooms and stuff because we were working the 6 shows a night. And when they found the skunk, of course, she had a stroke practically, and we got kicked out. And a fan who had come to see our show many times at the Fremont had 2 children and a husband and said we could live with them until we could find a place. So that's what we did. My parents finally came up from Phoenix maybe 2 years after we were here, and we got an apartment and then a home.
Has it been, and I know you've set all kinds of records for performances in Vegas, and we'll get into the USO stuff, which I find fascinating as well. But have you been in Vegas since 1959? I know you go out and tour, but I mean, basically, have you called Vegas your home since 1959?
Vegas has been my home since we came here. Yeah. And the local people are just the best in the world. And they took us in, let us live with them, invited us to dinner, all those kind of things. And even when I think I got a bad review one time, I've had a lot of bad reviews, but this one time, and a lady who owned a hotel on the Strip called me at the Fremont, and she said, and when you read this, don't get the hair on the back of your neck standing up and go looking for trouble. Just ignore it and go on with your life. And so it was those kind of people that kind of took us in and made sure that we survived.
Well, speaking of bad reviews, I was interviewing Donny Osmond, sitting right where you're sitting, several weeks ago. And he was telling me he understood at some point, he knew he was Donny Osmond, sort of a joke when things, when Nirvana was selling a lot of records in the early 90s and the scene had changed. He knew he was looked at as a sort of teeny bopper, goody two-shoes of a days of yore. But we also discussed that when people saw him, that he would change their minds. And I think we're all sort of guilty of that sometimes. Like when I was watching, and I'm curious if you've seen this, but in the Albert Brooks movie, Lost in America. Do you remember that movie?
I have not seen it.
Oh, my God. Wow. There's a scene where Albert Brooks is talking to the guy who runs the Desert Inn, who's played by Gary Marshall, the director. I guess brother of Penny Marshall? We'll figure it out. Anyway, Albert Brooks is explaining he knows what he's doing. He said, I'm not some schmuck who just rolls into town to see Wayne Newton. And Gary Marshall says, I like Wayne Newton. And then they get into a discussion about it. But I mean, Donnie told me that he felt like he had to change people's minds. Like they thought there was some comic book character version of him and that he had to show them that he really had the goods. And maybe playing all the instruments is part of that. I don't know, but do you have that feeling as well? Like the way you're perceived by certain people versus who you actually are?
Well, I think that I went through a lot of that. I had comics on television using my name in ways that I would not have appreciated.
Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson. And I went on with my life and just brushed that off because the instruments came about because of the Fremont years. Doing 6 years a night, I was the only singer in our group, and you can't sing that much,
right?
And maintain any kind of throat,
Right.
And so I kept picking up instruments in order to fill that.
Give yourself
void.
A break from singing.
And so I never took a lesson in any of them because I could hear it faster than I could see it in terms of reading music. And so that's how all that kind of transpired. And I really do thank the Fremont for the education in show business that I had to have gotten to have stayed there 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, now I think they call it the 10,000 hours,
Right.
10,000 hours. And I think sometimes people think of it as a bit of a curse, like, oh man, 6 shows a day. That's so taxing. But in terms of repetition, how much you learned in a short period of time,
Phenomenal.
Even as taxing as it may be and repetitive as it may be, you learn so much, and then it gets cemented into your DNA because they caught you during your formative years.
Right.
So you really got that bass.
Well, also dealing with people. Hecklers were a way of life in the lounges. You know, you do know.
Yeah, well,
And-
you have, I mean, you had that sort of high register,
Yes.
maybe even feminine voice.
Yes.
I know Danke Schoen, a lot of people thought that was a girl singing Danke Schoen. So, I mean, there must have been some drunken hecklers out there.
Well, I got those, and we got hecklers left and right, and then we got people like some ladies who would undo their tops as they sat at the bar and watched the show. So, I mean, things happen to you on stage in those lounges that no matter what happens to you in the future, you've been there, you've been through it.
Right.
I've had people die in the audience.
Really?
And in one instance, I was already in a main room then at the Desert Inn, of all places.
Yep.
And
Worth Albert Brooks.
the gentleman passed away in one of the booths. And so they rushed the paramedics in, and they were going to take him out. And his daughter stood up and yelled to everybody, "You leave him sit here. He came here to see Wayne Newton, and he's going to see Wayne Newton."
Wow.
And they left him alone in the booth until the show was over. So
What year was that? Because they definitely wouldn't have done
that
that.
would have been 1976, 77.
How many songs did you have left in the set? Do you recall?
Oh, yes, I do. I had about 30 minutes left.
Someone left the corpse out in the rain. I don't think that I love MacArthur Park, by the way.
Me too. That's
I'm
one
glad
of my favorite songs.
people
in the
make
world.
fun of me for loving MacArthur Park.
No, if they ever listen to the lyric and what it says, it practically fills in the void of everything that you and I have been through.
It's the
in
greatest
this
song.
business.
So literally there was a corpse out there. You could see it.
Yes,
You knew what was going on. You had more songs left in the set.
right.
Did you dedicate one to him or the daughter, or
No,
did
as
it
a
throw you
matter
off
of-
your game?
As a matter of fact, I had learned by that point that when we had a person ringside, for example, that may have epilepsy or something like that, and they have a seizure, I had learned to move away from where the lighting guy was expecting me to stay, to take the audience's attention to a different place instead of the whole audience watching this person go through a seizure, in addition to the fact that people would rush and try to help, when in fact, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to get real medical people in to help.
When did the Rat Pack come to town?
I don't know when they came to town because they were here when I came here.
So you got here in '59.
Right.
They must have been here recently. I mean, I don't think they were here in the 40s.
No, I think probably 52, 53, somewhere in there. When the Sands, I don't know when it was built originally, but they ended up at the Sands. I know that when Sammy was at the Sands, for example, in those early years, they still didn't allow black people to stay in the Sands Hotel. They had to go stay on the west side of town.
Wow. Even in Vegas, even
Yes.
in the 50s, mid 50s. So how did you come across the Rat Pack?
For some reason, Frank had seen me somewhere. Maybe on television, maybe somewhere else. I don't know. But he took a real interest in me. And when he was doing a fundraising show in town, raising money for the university or a charity or whatever, he would always call and make sure that I was on the show and I had time to perform. His wife told me years later that was his way of looking out for me to make sure I survived this industry. And I had no idea that he was that kind of friend to me until much later on.
Because you were young,
Right.
in your teens,
Yes.
when you met them.
Actually, when I finished the Fremont, I was still in my teens, 5 years, because I came here at 15.
Right.
So I still wasn't 21.
Right.
When I opened at the Desert Inn, or the Flamingo, was 1963. I still was not 21, and so it was quite a learning experience, and that's the way I took it.
Do you have any Rat Pack memories?
Oh my goodness, where do you want to start?
Or at the beginning?
Let me put it this way. When Frank's wife told me why he had taken the interest in me and all of that, she said he wanted to make sure you survived this industry. You didn't get into trouble. You didn't go down the wrong path. And you didn't show up at any of his parties.
Sorry, Frank's wife or Dean's wife?
No, Frank's wife.
Frank's wife.
Right.
Oh, really? Yeah, because you've always been, I don't know if the word is sober, but I just mean you've always
I
never had a substance
No.
issue, right?
No.
Just a clean liver?
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it was because of the asthma, too.
Oh, right.
As a child, I've had double pneumonia 7 times.
Okay.
So that's what the asthma left me with.
Right.
And so I never got into drinking, never got into drugs, never got into any of those things because I knew I had to keep a job.
Did you gamble here?
No, I have never been to one of the tables myself to gamble. Now, I qualify that only to say I have done movies and television and other things where I'm seated at a gaming table or throwing the dice or whatever, but that's for the film.
Right.
I have never done it.
You're in Vegas, no drinking, no gambling, no drugs, none of the trappings of Vegas.
No.
Which is probably why you've been able to have this career that's knocking on the door for 50 years. Oh, wait a minute. Let's say 65 years or whatever. We're coming on to 65 years. You wouldn't have been able to, if you drank, smoked, gambled.
No.
No. Womanized.
Well, let's leave that one, separately because
Okay.
I did a little of that. My wife is here, so I'm
We won't
careful
get
about
into
what I'm
great
saying.
detail. But everyone has a past, Wayne. So give me some Rat Pack stories.
Well, let me ask you a question. Did you know Dean Martin?
I never met any of them. I only know them as the public
All
knows
right,
them.
let me ask you a question and further that question. Do you think the whole drinking thing with Dean was just a part of his show business persona? That's how he wanted people to think of him?
Yeah, I am very naive, and I take everything at face value. So if that's who he's pushing forward, then I believe it. I believe everyone is who they say they are, except for Ellen, because I knew people who worked on her show, and she didn't like to dance quite as much as she was putting out there. But other than Ellen, I believe everyone.
Well, actually, Dean loved to drink, but he was not a bad drinker, meaning that he wouldn't go look for a fight. He
Right.
wouldn't hit on a guy's wife. Or that. He just loved to have a good time.
Right.
And he was always a friend to me, too. Asked me to do his television show. So we had to fly down to L.A. to do that. And then back at night because I was working here.
Right.
Doing 2 shows a night, right?
Yeah.
7 nights a week.
Wow.
And I went 35 weeks without a day off one
Wow.
time. 2 shows a night, 7 nights a week. And so Dean, in 5 days of rehearsals, did not show up one time
For his TV show.
for his television show.
Right.
So his director and friend came down to my dressing room, and he said, Wayne, listen, the old man will follow you, so just go ahead and do the medley. And so I go up to
You're going
film
to do a
it.
medley with Dean Martin?
Yes.
Who hasn't rehearsed?
Right.
Right.
To my knowledge, he didn't even know what we were doing.
Right. And you're doing a medley of songs.
Right. About 4 minutes worth.
Right.
Right. And so I go upstairs, and there stands Dean. So I go and say hello and all of that kind of thing. And as we're doing this medley, Dean is looking here, he's looking there, he's looking over there, he's looking there. And I'm thinking, I'm singing with you. Why aren't you looking at me, right? And I realized in that medley, as we were doing it, that he was looking at the cue cards.
Right.
So I did something at the end of the medley that was a total surprise to Helm and his producer also. I got down on one knee because it was that kind of medley of that era of songs, Jolson.
Oh, I see. Right.
So he looked down at me, and this is all being filmed. And I pulled his coattail to come down here with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the look on his face, I laughed to this day because it was, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? But I know he was a great human being, and he would handle it.
As a performer, and I know a lot of people would go see other people's acts, so to speak, in this town. Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra. Who would we be most surprised at? Like as a performer yourself, obviously you have discerning taste. I mean, did you see Sammy Davis Jr. perform at the height of his powers and say, "Oh my God, that guy's a phenom"? Did you see Frank Sinatra perform at the height of his powers and go, "That's nobody else could pull that off"? Or like, who were you most impressed with?
I was impressed with Dean and his ability to get through a show and have it be absolutely spectacular, knowing that he probably was about, had one or two drinks. And I saw Sammy many times. In fact, we did shows together at times. And Frank obviously was the king. And when I saw him work, I learned a lot about, well, I think the best story I can give you of Frank, he and I were having a lunch one day and at the hotel, and another singer, which shall remain nameless for obvious reasons, came up to the table. And he handed Frank an album. And Frank looked at the album, and the singer said, "Boss, when you get a chance, listen to this and tell me what's wrong with it." And without looking at the guy, Frank said, "I know what's wrong with it before I listen to it." What? I don't have to listen to it to know what's wrong with it. And the guy said, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He said, "God gave you an incredible instrument when he gave you this.
A voice. Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's not connected to this."
Your heart. For those listening.
And those are words that stuck with me the rest of my life. Because that's what it's about. You can look at some of the younger people coming on today and know that it's not coming from here. that's coming from here.
Did so there's Elvis stories to talk about. There's Danke Schoen, which was the first big hit. Which, how did that even come about? It's such a quirky, unlikely hit.
Well, it came about in a moment in my life that was a catastrophe. That kind of, I would do like 15 weeks straight at the Fremont, and then I would take 2 weeks off from the Fremont, go up to Harrah's Club in Lake Tahoe, and entertain in the lounge there for 2 weeks, come back to the Fremont then. I was in Tahoe. I was having lunch with the entertainment director.
How old were you?
18, 19. And I said to him, I said, Bob, you have a lot of people, a lot of big stars come into Harrah's to play the main showroom. Some of them do not have an opening act. Why don't you let me be their opening act and just pay me the same thing you're paying me to work the lounge? He became instantaneously furious. Pounded the table, stood up. He said, you will never work in our main room. You got that through that thick head of yours? You will never work in our main showroom. And in fact, I'm not sure we'd ever want you back in the lounge.
Why was his reaction so
I had to this
abrupt?
day, I do not know what happened. But he then got up and walked off. And I was devastated. And firstly, we were in a public place, and the whole room heard and saw what happened. And I called my manager, and I said, I've made a decision, and this is it. I want you to hear about it before the grapevine. I will finish my contract at the Fremont Hotel, but when that's over, that's the last lounge I will ever play, even if it means giving up show business. And he said, how are we going to eat? And I said, you got to find us a job somewhere, but it will not be in a lounge because I won't do it.
Well, this brings up an interesting point. We need to take a quick, brief break, but I'll finish that point when we come back with Wayne Newton right after this. Let me a situation that happened in my life many, many years ago was a situation that was much like you described at the lounge, or having lunch and wanting to play the main room.
Right.
Although a very low fidelity version of that, we'll call it. But I used to be a really good football player, and then when I got to my first year of high school, I wasn't very good anymore, and I was thinking about quitting, but I loved playing football, but I just wasn't very good anymore. And one day I was hanging around with a bunch of friends of mine, and they said, what happened? You used to be good at football. Now you're no good. What's wrong with you? And I said, I don't know. I'm trying. And they really piled on, and they really hit me where it counted. And at some point I yelled at all of them, I'll show you. I'll show you. I'm going to go to the weight room. I'm going to go into Rocky type training. I'm going to be drinking raw eggs, and I'm going to go live in the weight room, and I'll show you who can play football. And I did it. I drank the raw eggs. I lived in the weight room. I made the varsity the next year, and then I became became an all Valley player at that point on. But it was only because I was being sort of mocked and punished and made a declaration. No more. I'll show you, essentially, which is ostensibly what you did. So,
Right.
When people say people need encouragement, that's good. But sometimes a little discouragement gets even a better outcome, because
Well,
in your case, it
as it
forced you to
did-
really take a stand.
Because he found us a job in Sydney, Australia, working a brand new showroom. Sydney, Australia. I come walking out on stage my first night, and seated ringside was Mr. Jack Benny.
Mm.
He was in Australia doing a tour.
Right. Comedy tour, people should know.
Yes, well, he had an opening act and it went from coast to coast. Right. He came backstage after the show, said some wonderfully nice things, and things that were wonderful to hear after what I had been through in Tahoe, right? And he said, "You know, Wayne, I'm doing a tour from coast to coast here," and he said, "When this tour is over, I just realized as I sat there, because Shirley Bassey is my opening act here, and she's from England, and when this tour is over, she's going back to England."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I realize when I get home, I don't have an opening act." He said, "You want to be my opening act?" I said, "Yes, sir. I'd swim the Pacific to be your opening act." He said, "Okay." And he said, "I'll have a contract here in the morning. You can sign it and know that you're my opening act when we get back." He started out of the dressing room. Before he got to the door, he stopped, turned back, and he said, "Just to let you know, the first place we're going to play is at Harrah's in Lake Tahoe."
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
my heart went to my feet,
Right.
and I said, "Mr. Benny, I have to tell you something because I don't want you to commit to something that you'll be sorry for later, simply because nobody told you the whole truth." And I said, "The truth is I have been playing Harris in their lounge for 2 years now, on and off." And I said, "And they've just made it abundantly clear to me that they never, ever want me in their main showroom, nor maybe even back in their lounge." And he didn't crack a smile. He didn't blink. He said, "If they don't want you, then they don't want me."
Wow.
So the first main showroom I ever played was in Harris, Soho, opening for Mr. Benny.
Did you run into the guy who was very critical at lunch?
He got fired.
Oh, good.
They fired him.
See how that works, everybody? The great magnet, the universe. What happened to your brother? You guys did an act together for many years.
And I
He
haven't
was
answered your Danke
older.
Schoen problem.
Oh, and then they got Danke Schoen.
Yes. My brother quit show business.
Is he a
It
little
wasn't
older?
I'm sorry?
Is he a little older?
He was a lot older than I was, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my parents made him kind of learn music because he was never really accomplished at it, just to look out for me,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that, and it wasn't something that he liked. And we
Did he
were
not like the hours, the
I think it
rigor,
was
or the
hours.
actual
I
music?
think it was just the total, all of it together.
Right.
The fact that you pretty much get your 2 shows a night, if that's what you're doing, or 6 shows a night at the Fremont, because he was part of that too. It pretty much takes over your life. When you wake up, you know that you've got to have this amount of it. It's like I would imagine going out on the football field. You know what it takes and what it's going to take out of you.
Right.
So you better not burn the candle on both ends.
Right. So he
just
quit.
He quit. We were actually doing a date in Denver, Colorado. And we flew in there, went to bed because we had a show the next day there. And then to come back to the Fremont again on our day off. And I get a call from my drummer. And he said, "Your brother left." I said, "What?" "He left." I said, "Left where?" He said, "Here." He got on a plane, said for me to tell you that he's gone and he's not going to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. He moved back to Virginia for a while, Tennessee for a while, went into radio for a while, but that was it.
Did he have a successful life, career?
No.
Did he attempt to sort of wiggle back into your career and your life after, some people don't stick around and raise their sons, but at some point when the son enters the NBA draft, they reappear. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Sometimes it's with good, good intentions. It's not always just to come in and grab some money, but that does happen.
Oh my goodness!
But your brother never
down the wrong path.
Never made that attempt. Huh?
No, what happened? I think that he felt that my parents were also going to be angry with him. So he got as far away from show business and the entire family.
So you guys were estranged, I guess?
For probably 15, 16 years.
And how did you reconnect?
He called my secretary and wanted to know if he could bring his then wife. He was married 6 times.
Whoa.
If he could bring his then wife to the ranch to see the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, because she called me immediately, and I said, of course. And I went over to meet him. And he was shocked. And at the same time relieved.
Mm-hmm.
As was I.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a tough thing for my parents to go through. And then my mother passed away very young, in her early 60s, from heart failure, and my dad at 70. And so he has 2 sons that are both very successful. One is an attorney, and the other is a businessman in Tennessee. And so he ended up passing away about 3 months after that, coming to the ranch.
Really?
Yes.
So young.
Yes.
Then, like in
My
his
mother-
50s or what?
My mother had a heart ailment, which was hereditary. And she had 11 brothers and sisters, all of which passed away of a heart attack.
Wow.
Her youngest brother was 39 when he passed away. So my brother must have inherited that gene.
So was he in his 50s or his 40s?
He would have been in his 60s.
Or when he passed. But thankfully, he came back and sort of had
Yes.
some closure,
Yes.
as they say. I should say that Wayne is going out on tour, national tour.
Yes.
WayneNewton.com is where you go because there's dates all over the place.
Yes, they are.
And I think the best way to do it if you want to see Wayne in person is just go to WayneNewton.com and then find out when he's coming to an arena in your town, and then back at the Flamingo September. I don't have a cheat
Yes,
sheet
I'm
in
back
front
at
of me.
the Flamingo in September. And
Just so people know, because I wanted to obviously give you a plug.
thank you. Thank you.
So, Danke Schoen.
Danke Schoen.
You're what, 17, 18? 18, 19?
Probably
Or
18,
older.
18.
Mhm.
I would guess maybe 17, somewhere in there. I had done a Jackie Gleason show, which was my first break on national television. When he came back on the air after he had taken a hiatus for 2 years.
Yeah, this isn't the Honeymooners. This is the Jackie Gleason show.
Right.
Variety show, right?
Right.
Right.
And he asked us to stay in New York, and he said, I'll put you on my show every other week. What a break, right?
Right.
So I said, Mr. Gleason, absolutely, but we need to find a job in order to afford to be able to stay. And he got us a job in the lounge at the Copacabana.
Mm-hmm.
Opening night again, I walk out, and who's seated there but Bobby Darin?
Mac the Knife.
Mac the Knife. I'm a big Bobby Darin fan. I walked off stage. There was a waiter standing there, and he said, "Mr. Darin wants to see you." So I walked up to Bobby, and he introduced himself. And I said, I know who you are. I said, "I'm a big fan, Mr. Darin." He said, "Well, I saw you last night on the Jackie Gleason show. And I called around New York this morning to find out where you may be appearing. And they told me here. So I came here to ask you a question." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Are you recording?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, you are now. I will be producing your records from this point forward. Starting next week, you and I will be in the studio." Went in the studio, did 3 or 4 songs. He produced my records for 7 years until he passed away.
Wow.
And he passed away from a heart attack that he had had since childhood, a heart ailment, I should
Yeah,
say.
relatively young.
Yes.
And had a lot of range because I believe he sung Abraham, Martin, and John. I think that was him. He did the Mac the Knife kind of
Yes,
stuff, but he also did kind of folksy
Right.
kind of stuff. Like
Yes,
he
he
had
did.
range.
He went through a lot of, maybe 4 or 5 years of the folk music
Right.
stuff. I found out about a year after he had given me Danke Schoen to record that song was written for Bobby to record and follow Mac the Knife with it. Follow
Wow.
his hit of Mac the Knife.
Yeah.
But he was so intent to get me a hit record that he gave me the song that was intended for him to record.
And I can hear him now doing his version of Danke Schoen.
Right.
Because Mac the Knife, it wasn't a novelty song, but it wasn't a just straight song. It had, it was interesting.
Yes,
and
it
it was
was.
had some humor in it, and Danke Schoen's got some. They're sort of the same kind of song, and I can hear him putting his flavor
Kind of the
on
same
it.
bit, too.
Kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that would have been a hit for him.
Yes, it
So
was.
it was very magnanimous of
Oh,
him to
my
hand it over to you.
I mean, how many times I look up and go,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, that's Danke Schoen, right? It doesn't mean thank you.
It does.
Okay, so it worked out perfectly. So he hands you Danke Schoen. You're in New York. Do you read it? Do you look at it? Do you hear it? Does he pitch it to you? Do you sort of immediately go, "Oh, there's something here"? Do you hear it? Had it been recorded before?
Only a acetate of the song.
So like a
it was
demo of it?
A demo, yes. And I recorded that, I think, maybe my 3rd record session. I didn't do it in New York. I recorded it in L.A.
Mhm.
And he brought in the acetate, and he said, "Now learn this because we're going to do it the next session." And we did. And I absolutely would not even question his ability to pick a song that he wanted me to do. If you want that one, I had that kind of respect for him, and he deserved it.
But you had covered so many great songs by then that you knew what a great song was.
Yes.
And when you heard this one, did you go, "That's another great song"? Or, I don't know, seems kind of quirky, but I'll give it a shot?
No, the thing that I thought when I first heard it was, this has a real Mac the Knife feel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And okay with me.
Right.
And so luckily, I was blessed with the ability to hear things before I could see them. meaning learning to read music.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't read music to this day.
So you record Danke Schoen, on what label?
Capital.
Capitol. Sinatra's the label,
Yes.
right?
No, actually, he had gone and started his own label
At that
by
point.
then.
Okay. His old label.
Right.
And it's immediately a huge hit or not. It was immediately a huge hit. And now people want you on their TV shows and on their stages and everywhere to sing that song, right?
Right.
And is that just a blessing or is there a downside to that?
I
too?
don't think it's any way of a downside. When one considers, to date, I've recorded 165 albums and over 200 singles.
Wow.
So to have something that takes on that life and then continues to grow as time goes on.
Well, featured in Ferris Bueller's
yes.
Day Off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then also all the acting as well. But I'm trying to think, I used to watch Robert Urich in Vegas back in the day, and he, where's Wayne Newton? We're going to solve some crime together. But how much acting have you done where you're not Wayne Newton?
In fact, I try and seek out those roles because I don't like playing Wayne Newton.
Sorry for that.
No. What I mean by that
On
is
camera.
invariably, as you know, the writers will write things that Wayne Newton wouldn't say
Right.
or do.
Right. So when you're playing Wayne Newton, you're saying things that Wayne Newton wouldn't say. It's difficult. But
That's
if you're
right.
playing a character, then you
Then
can
it
say
doesn't
whatever
matter.
they write.
Right.
Yeah, that is interesting. So, horses. My goodness. Who loves horses more, you or that Johnny come lately Bill Shatner?
Well, actually, Bill Shatner has some of my horses.
Who he has?
Yes.
Are they Arabian?
Yes, they are.
Oh.
Now, he likes pretty much saddlebreds and Tennessee Walkers, but by and large, that's the love that he followed. Mine was the Arabian horse. I had thoroughbreds before them. I had quarter horses before them. But when I got to know what the Arabian horse was and the history and the love that the horse has for humans, that sold me immediately. And they are incredibly human horses.
Really?
Yes.
And what do you mean by that? Like, what are some of the characteristics?
Some of the characteristics would be that when I walk into the barn area, they start to whinny to each other to let
they
the
communicate.
others know that I'm there.
Right. You versus other people.
Yes.
They recognize you.
They are friendly. When you look at their history, the Bedouins that, rode them in the desert of Arabia and kept them in their tents and drank their milk to stay alive.
Wow.
These are people horses. I had a mare that was a month over her due date to foal, to have her baby. But because I was on the road, she wouldn't have it.
Wow.
And she became very ill-tempered to the help and all of that. And they called me and said, when you get home, because they knew I was coming home at a certain time, whatever you do, don't go in the stall with that mare. Well, that's all you have to say to me. Right. So got home, my wife and I went to the barn, and I started to undo the door, and the help said, please don't. And I said, it'll be fine. And my wife said, I'm going with you. I said, okay, here's how we do it. We go in, we sit in the corner of the stall. We don't reach for her. We don't irritate her or any of that. Just let her know that I'm home. And we did that. She walked over and did that to my ear.
Licked your ear and nibbled at your ear?
With her lip.
With her, hit your earlobe.
And laid down and had her baby.
Wow. Did you think that she was waiting for you? So they're that in tune.
They are.
Wow.
I had another mare that could not carry. She could conceive, but she couldn't carry. And I called the vet, and he said, "Well, let's put it in a donor mare, the embryo," which we did. And I put the two mares next to each other in their own stalls with like a window where the real mother could see the other.
Surrogate.
Waited for the baby to be born with her head over the door watching. And when the baby stood up and she knew it was okay, the mare laid down and died.
The surrogate?
No,
the one
the
who
real
couldn't
mother.
carry.
Yes.
Wow, like
And the
waited
vet said-
until
yes.
that.
The vet said to me, if I had not seen this and somebody told me this story, I'd say you're lying,
Wow.
but it's true.
Wow. All right. A little more to get to with Wayne Newton, and we'll do that right after this. Well, it's talking about these incredible Arabian horses. A lot of times when people have a real attraction to certain animals, especially horses, it is based on some void from their childhood or something that's missing. You know, you'll hear people say, I love this Saint Bernard because he doesn't judge me. You know, like my stepdad did. You know, like there's something, there overcompensation or something. But your childhood, while unique and very fascinating, doesn't feel like it was chocked full of abuse or voids or emotional voids or something like that. Is your attraction to these horses then just pure? You just appreciate who they are, what they do, this breed, and obviously you're an animal lover, but it doesn't feel like it's a compensation for anything.
No, it's
or maybe
not.
it is.
No, it isn't. The love of horses, I don't remember when I didn't have it.
Well, I know you sold your bike to get a horse
Right.
at age 9 or something, I recall.
Yes, I was in school, and this girl had a horse, and the horse had a baby. And I didn't know anything about Arab horses or quarter horses or anything at that time.
Is this in Arizona or?
This was in Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
And I said, what do you want for the horse? Now, we were doing the television show, and I think we made $180 a week doing the television show.
You and your brother.
My brother and I, which is not enough to feed horses.
Right.
And yet I sold my bike, and I took my parents' movie camera without their knowledge and sold it and bought the horse for $20. And when I told my parents, I thought, well, it's going to be bad news for me, but I deserve it because I did it.
Right.
And I told them, and they said, okay, how are you going to feed it? I said, I'm going to have to buy food for it once it's weaned.
Right.
So we have 6 months to figure that out. And they said, fine. And they booked a couple extra shows here and there, and we got enough to feed the horse.
Your work ethic, very strong, obviously. I always kind of tell people I have a strong work ethic, but as it pertains to show business, I used to do real jobs, real construction jobs, tough, dirty, heavy, low pay, on your
Right.
feet sweating a lot. So, standing up on stage, holding the microphone, making people laugh. Sometimes after the show, people say, "Oh, it's so nice you stick around. You take a picture, you sign an autograph." Like, of course, it's easy. You came to the show. I'm happy you came to the show. Thanks for buying a book.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. But you don't have that base because you were always in show business. And I basically asked as much of Donny Osmond. I'm like, I can say for me, just being in air conditioning, my job is sitting in air conditioning with my good buddy's name emblazoned on the screen behind me, interviewing Wayne Newton. That's not work from where I come from.
Right.
But you don't have that base.
No.
So where's the ethic come from?
I think from the lounge, from watching people like Frank, Dean, and Sam, and knowing that they might have had something going on other than the work ethic, but nevertheless, they knew what it was that they had to wake up to each day. And it's been that way with me. People will say to me, "Don't you get tired of people stopping you for pictures or autograph?" And I say the old cliche, it's when they quit stopping me that I'll worry.
And also, how much of what you do now is you are Wayne Newton, so people are going out to see Wayne Newton, and then somebody's going to say to them, "How was Wayne Newton?" They're not going to say, "Who's Wayne Newton?" They're going to go, "How was Wayne Newton?" And you sort of have to prove it every performance, which I think most performers feel, but they don't. It's not quite the same pressure of, I'm going to go out and see an unknown comedian or an unknown rock act or performer, because no one's going to ask, "How were they?" You feel that is part of that factored in?
I feel that pressure every show, but I don't look at it like it's a pressure. I look at it like this is what brought me to my ability to have the things in life that I want, have an incredible wife, 2 beautiful daughters. None of that would have happened if I didn't have the discipline that was necessary to do what I do on stage.
And does it feel like discipline, or does it just feel like what you do? Like one of those Arabian horses hits an open meadow and goes at a full gallop. Is that discipline, exactly, or is it what they do?
It's what I do. It's what I do.
Which is a night, and I'm always so envious of people who figured out what they wanted to do so early. And I don't know who figured it out earlier than you. And it must have, as previously discussed, been in you, because you weren't pushed to do this at age 5.
In fact, my parents said to me because I did take lessons that I failed at because I didn't practice what the teacher was preaching. And my parents said, "If you don't want to do this, just tell us, because we can't afford the lessons otherwise." And I finally said to them, "I can do this without the lessons, because I'll go home and practice what I want to play on an instrument instead of what the teacher wants me to come back and play for him."
Do you have any thoughts about retirement? Any dates looming in the future? My 90th birthday?
No. I will stay as long as I can walk out and see people smile and walk away from the show with having forgotten their own problems for a short period of time.
I know you've done a ton with the USO. I believe that you sort of took over for Bob Hope.
I did in year 2000.
I'll screw it up, but the ambassador, so to speak, for the USO. I know you've been overseas many times, including as early as Vietnam a couple of times.
Vietnam twice.
Wow. So
entertaining our troops.
yeah. So me and you probably both hate Jane Fonda, I'm guessing. But I won't put words in your mouth.
Who?
Okay, I gotcha. But where did that passion come from?
I don't know, except that in high school, the short time that I went for 2.5 years, I took military school, or OTC. And I thought maybe I would want, if music doesn't work out, maybe I would want a career in the military. Well, then when I was 18, of course, the draft was on for Vietnam, right?
Right.
And I get called to come in and take my exam and all that. The sergeant looked at my medical papers and took out a stamp and went and handed it back to me. He said, "You can go." And I said, "Go where?" Because I was kind of looking forward to maybe going in the military. And he said, "I don't care where you go." And I said, "Well, can you tell me what 1Y means?" Because he had stamped 1Y on the papers. And he said, "It means the Russians would have to be in the lobby before we called you."
Wow.
Because of the asthma.
Right.
And I went back because I was headlining in Tahoe that night. And I went back, and the Marine Corps had bought out the entire show because it was the Marine Corps birthday. I walked out to a sea of uniforms. Couldn't have been a better audience in the world than they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked off stage, and I thought, well, they can stop me from fighting for my country, but they can't stop me from singing for my country. So I said to my brother and bass player and drummer, "I'm going to Vietnam." So I actually called the USO and said, "I want to go." And that's how I ended up in Vietnam. And we went there twice.
Wow. That and then every war since,
we have
right?
been in every major conflict that our country has been in since Vietnam.
Not many can say that.
And there's not a show, Adam, that I either don't get a card or a note from somebody in that audience saying, "I saw you in Beirut, I saw you in Lebanon, I saw you in Afghanistan, I saw you every place." And letters to this day from people who say, "You never know what the USO show means to us. It gives us the ability to go home for a short period of time."
Wow. Yeah, I got to say, I really didn't know what to expect interviewing you, Wayne Newton, because you've always been a part of my life because, like I said, Danke Schoen 64, was it? I'm trying to think what year Danke Schoen.
I think it was 64, yes.
Okay.